There's a difference between talking about dignity and demonstrating it. There's a difference between arguing that you're capable and proving that you are. It's like it's simple but true. Can't talk about it, you got to be about it. And tonight, I want to talk about this never-ending debate. It should be over, but it's been going on for about over 100 years. The debate between Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois. And Booker T. Washington was born into slavery. He was a young child, and self-educated. The very definition of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. A no excuse type of man. He believed in labor. He believed in self-reliance, building a strong foundation, making yourself a valuable citizen. So even if someone doesn't like you, you still are viable. There's nothing they can do. You're a force to be reckoned with. W.E.B. Du Bois, and by the way, Booker T. Washington believed in the trades and vocational, learning how to do things, building, construction, farming, brickmaking. W.E.B. Du Bois, on the other hand, was from Massachusetts, intellectual, college educated, Harvard educated, and he believed in, that if Black people could just explain themselves clearly enough through books and essays and colleges and protest, politics, that America would, finally see them differently. America would see the wrongs that they've committed, and that America would apologize somehow. They would suddenly see the light if they just read this one newspaper article or read this one essay. Maybe if we went out there and protest and shouted enough, America would somehow fall to its knees and apologize. This is an age-old debate, Booker T. Washington versus W.E.B. Du Bois. I think we know the answer to the debate over 100 years later, but let's talk about it. We'll go slow. Booker T. Washington understood something older than theory, older than academia, politics. And you can't argue your way out of being seen as inferior. You have to prove it. And Black people coming right out of slavery, by the way, Booker T. Washington wrote a book called Up from Slavery. It's an excellent read. I recommend it to everyone. And I listen to it on the Audible app. I like to listen to things. But excellent book on the Audible app. Up from Slavery. I think it's on YouTube, so you don't have to pay for it. And it describes his life and his way of thinking. And one thing I've learned, I drove truck for 28 years. I've been in construction, oil field, pipeline. By the way, thanks for the likes. I appreciate that. I really appreciate the likes. It really helps the channel. One thing I've learned being in labor, being in the trades, is that those are skills that people can't take from you. Those are skills you have for life, especially if you dedicate yourself to them and you're good at it. You become valuable to society. You become valuable to construction and to the country that you live. And even if someone doesn't like you personally, Well, it's too bad. You still have something that they need. You have a skill that they need. Booker T talked about this, that, especially coming right out of slavery, that, getting into college, emphasizing college degrees and politics was just the wrong thing at the time. I could argue it's the wrong thing now. But coming right out of slavery, there seems to be this sort of this false dignity, this false sense of dignity and pride. Well, we're just as good as the rest of America. Don't you see it? We should be able to integrate right now. We want civil rights right now. We want the right to vote right now. You're going to treat us the same as everyone else right now. You just came out of slavery. Let's be honest. You were just slaves. You had no rights. You had very little dignity, if any at all. Anyone who is considered a slave is not really all that, they're not considered worthy of dignity. So you just came out of this, about 268 years of it. The Civil War had just happened. Many, many people died in an effort to free you. Very bloody, nasty war. Not everyone was happy about the slaves being freed. By the way, not everyone was happy in the North. Not everyone was happy in the South, obviously. But believe it or not everyone was happy in the North. This was a turbulent time, the 1880s, the 1890s. Booker T. Washington said, look, let's put our head down. Let's keep quiet. Let's not agitate. Let's not call for integration, civil rights and voting rights and all this kind of stuff. That's not important right now. That's not important right now. What's important is that we get some skills. We get organized, get some skills, learn how to do things and become valuable members of society. It's not enough to tell people that we're not animals. It's just not how. You don't convince people that you're not an animal by writing papers and essays. That's not how this works, making speeches. You show them, you convince them by building businesses, buying and owning land, mastering the trades, not just being in the trades, but mastering them. And I want to talk about this as well, is that Tuskegee Institute, which was the college that Booker T. Washington built with his own hands, along with some of the students, they got very, very good. It was not at first. They got very, very good at brick making. Because of course the institute college was made of bricks, and at that time you made bricks from scratch, and it was a process, and they didn't know how to do it properly. Booker T didn't know how to do it properly, but what he did was he worked at it and worked at it and worked at it. He failed several times until he didn't. And finally, he learned how to do it and do it properly. And he was good. He was good. They got so good at building bricks that outside contractors began to come in and ask for them. And I always think about, I say, at a time when Black people needed a proper identity in this world, aside from being considered, just former slaves, that's all you were considered. Can you imagine had we decided, you know what, our identity is not going to be politics, it's not going to be protesting, it's not going to be agitation, it's not going to be colleges and getting worthless degrees. It's going to be brick making, especially at a time like that, at the turn of the century. Can you imagine? the turn of the century and you corner the market, you corner the industry, making bricks, and you're so good at it that you are synonymous with brick making. I always think about, what if black people had went that route? Of course, they did not. They went by way of the NAACP, W.E.B. Du Bois, agitation, protest, marches, elections. So let's get back to it and let's take it slow. So this is a debate between who was W.E.B. Du Bois. Now, W.E.B. Du Bois was from Massachusetts, okay? An intellectual. He was never born into slavery. In fact, he went to an integrated school. He got help from white associates to go to college. They helped fundraise for him. He had a different idea. He believed that, we should dive 2 feet headlong into college education, academia. We need civil rights, and we need them now. We need voting rights, and we need them now. We need integration now. And I would argue, by the way, if you look into the NAACP, who did not have a black president until the 1990s, NAACP was not a black founded organization. It's important. A lot of people don't know that. But that was their idea. Getting into politics, agitation, marches, protest did nothing to help black folk. But W.B. Du Bois became the face of publicity for the NAACP. NAACP, by the way, founded by Moorfield Story. All right. The NAACP, founded by Moorfield Story, a lawyer from Massachusetts. NAACP, founded by Stephen Samuel Weiss, a rabbi, originally from Budapest, Hungary. NAACP, founded by Henry Mockowitz, originally from Romania, Eastern Europe. By the way, all three of those men are not black. Very important to note who was directing and pulling the strings at the time. But W.B. Du Bois was clean, he was articulate, and he had a different philosophy altogether. And him and Booker T. Washington did not see eye to eye at all. Now, looking back on it, I mean, if we're going to look at this, Booker T. Washington was not glamorous. He wasn't clean as, clean and polished as maybe what some intellectuals would, see as clean and polished, like a W.B. Du Bois. But let's dive into it a little bit. W.B. Du Bois wrote a book called The Soul of Black Folk, and he wrote something called the double consciousness. Now, the double consciousness is something it's one of the more popular things in that book, The Souls of Black Folk. double consciousness is basically looking at the world, looking at America, where you're at, just the world, period. Looking at it through not only your eyes, but looking at it through non-black eyes, looking at it through the lens of someone else. Because you're looking at the world like, well, I'm in America, but I'm a black man, and I'm not equal. I'm not seen as equal. I'm not treated like I want to be treated. So I'm here in America, but I'm looking at this through the lens of oppression. And I want to get a breakdown here. I had a breakdown of exactly what it was. Now, if you look it up, here it is right here. Double consciousness. Double consciousness, it trains people to, if you put it in GPT, it'll tell you, it trains people to measure themselves against external judgment, internalizing grievances as identity, interpreting. Now, this is what's key. Interpreting, interpret every obstacle as confirmation of victimhood. Let me repeat that. Interpreting every obstacle as confirmation of victimhood. All the parking spaces is taken. Oh, boy, they don't want us parking down here. Oh, the woman behind the counter rolled her eyes at me. Oh, that must be systemic racism. They not answering the phones. Well, they don't want me. Every little conflict, every little obstacle seen through the lens of victimhood. Instead of saying, I'm here, I'm capable. This is what Booker T. Washington would say. I'm here, I'm capable, let's build. And that's what you see a lot of other minority groups, the East Indians from India, immigrants from India, immigrants from the Philippines, immigrants from Asia, from China, even immigrants from Africa. Their mentality is, I'm not a victim. Here I am. I'm here. I'm capable. And let's build. And that's what Booker T tried to emphasize. Look, everything's not perfect. But you can't see yourself as a victim because you will never build. Where you're at will never be good enough. It's like living in a constant state of depression. That's why a lot of black folks have no desire to take care of where they even live. Usually, well, why don't they take care of their neighborhoods? They they feel like, why should I? Why should I? Why should I take care of this place? I'm in America. I'm a victim. I'm a constant victim. I have no desire to take care of where I'm at. I'm just marking time till I die. They might not say that, but that's the mentality. It's a constant state. Being in a constant state of victimhood is like being in a constant state of depression. It's like being in a malaise, a constant fog. You ever have brain fog? It's like being in brain fog. Now, as far as the double consciousness and this victimhood mentality, it produces permanent victims, permanent defendants. You're always on the defensive. And it undermines long-term ownership, long-term belonging, and achievement. You look at these immigrants who are new here. You look at these immigrants that are new here, Indians, Asians, even African immigrants. They have an attitude that they belong here, that this is this is theirs. America is theirs for the taking. Now, how do new immigrants that come here have a mindset of This land is mine for the taking, yet African American, and by the way, those immigrants that come here, they have been oppressed, downtrodden way more than African Americans here. African Americans have been living on a bed of roses for a long time. But yet, immigrants that have been downtrodden from other nations, other countries, other parts of the world, they come here and feel free as a jaybird. Boy, they feel free and they feel like, hey, this place is mine for the taking. Is they're not burdened with that sense of victimhood. That sense of victimhood is poison. It's poison. And it's been injected into the black community. It has. And it's hard to get it out. It's hard to get it out. You look at immigrants, they embrace. And by the way, they go through things here in America. Everything's not perfect for them here in America. Let me see here. Everything's not perfect for them here in America, but but they persevere. You see that they're a lot happier and they embrace where they live. They take pride in building something, starting businesses, working together. You look at, so many African Americans, it's nothing but complaints. But let's move forward. And by the way, you don't have to love everything about your country to claim your place in it. You don't have to love everything about your country to stake your claim. I don't know where this mindset comes from where everything's got to be perfect, which is never going to be perfect. It's just it's an excuse to be lazy and to not build. Booker T. Washington believed in farming. You control the food. And if you become farmers, if you become good at it, people depend on you. You become good builders, good brick makers, people will have to depend on you. So we're talking about labor, economics, economic self-sufficiency, farming, brick making, building, construction, land, buying land, trades, businesses, pulling money and resources together. Double consciousness, which is what W.E.B. Du Bois wrote, trains you to live in reaction. And, it just trains you to live basically in your emotions. You're in a constant state of emotional upheaval, turmoil, torture. I mean, in my 30 years of truck driving and working in construction and in the trades, man, believe me, everything has not been perfect. And there's a lot of things in work, personally, that have been hard to deal with, believe me, especially as a man of color, as you people call it nowadays. Boy, oh boy, man, I've been through some stuff like you wouldn't believe. But I just refuse to see myself as a victim. And by the way, it's worked. If I had saw myself as a victim, I wouldn't be as far ahead in life as I am now. It's hard. How can you build and be successful looking at yourself as a victim? It doesn't make sense. It's illogical. How are you going to build a future and you're anchored in grievance? Continually anchored in grievance. How? It's impossible. I mean, the grievance, and by the way, Booker T. Washington talked about this 100 and what, 30 years ago. There's a grievance. There's a grievance industry. There are people who make money off of race hustling, off of grievance. These people are not even, there's nothing even wrong. I remember when they were talking about civil rights back in the 60s, and they said, well, they would make a point. They would make up racism. They would make it up where it didn't exist. They would stage racism. And they said, well, the reason why we're doing it is because we know it exists. So we're staging it just, to show everyone, to make a point. This is madness. First of all, it's a waste of time. It's performative art. And it didn't build anything. I've said it for years. All these protests and marches on Washington and this and that, what did those build? You look at every other group in this country who has come in, and you look at them. And by the way, you look at the Indians, East Indians from India, you look at the Asians, whether it's China, whether it's Koreans, they have shops. Koreans have shops. Chinese have shops. The Filipinos have shops. They have restaurants. They have wealth, businesses, real estate. The Indians I think they own more businesses than anyone in the country. Super 8s, they have a network. And you see the Indians, they have all these motels, Motel 8s, and smaller motel chains, and they have the Popeyes chicken, and they have all these different things that they've cornered. And I asked a woman, she was an Indian woman down in Texas, Houston area. This is years ago, probably maybe about 10 years ago. And I asked her, God, I think it was longer than that. Might have been about 15 years ago. Anyway, I asked her, I said, how do you guys have all these Motel 8s and these different motel chains and different businesses? And she told me, she said, there is a network. She didn't get into specifics, and she explained it pretty well. I just kind of hard to understand when you have never heard of it before, but they have a network. They work together where Indian Americans, Indian immigrants can get a business, a small motel. If they do well with the small motel, make it profitable, they can move up, move into something else, and they'll get help financially for it. They have a network. And you notice how the Indian immigrants didn't clamor about protesting and marches and politics. They didn't care about that at the time. Now you see Indian Americans into politics. Now you see Asian Americans, like um, people from other different parts of Asia, East Asia, getting into politics. Chinese and Filipino, Koreans, Arab Americans. You see the Arabs. The Arabs, they weren't clamoring about politics. They weren't protesting out there and talking about how we need equal representation in Washington. They weren't talking about all that stuff. You see that they were steady, quietly, even after 9/11, when Americans looked at Arabs who had nothing to do with 9/11, they looked at them with a careful eye of suspicion, and yet they persevered. Think about that for a minute. After 9/11, the Arabs in America survived that tsunami of suspicion and hate and came out on the other side. Now they're not only are they a force to be reckoned with economically, but politically now. These are the blueprints. And it's funny because it's almost as if the Arabs, the Indians, the East Asians all took the blueprint of Booker T. Washington. Be quiet. Simmer down. Don't make too much of a ruckus. Don't make too much noise. Learn the trades. Start businesses. Make yourself valuable. There's no need for agitation. And it worked. It worked. And I'm not doing this to take a dump on W.E.B. Du Bois, because actually he had a split from the NAACP. By the late 1930s and 40s, he had, begin advocating for economic separatism, and he grew more radical, and he criticized capitalism and all this kind of stuff. And I have my theories on that, but you need that foundation. He was an intellectual, and he understood. He wrote papers on, Du Bois wasn't ignorant of economics. He wrote, about labor. He wrote about black farmers and sharecropping. But it's one thing to have book knowledge about it and write about it. It's another to have practical application and have actual experience in labor, which is what W.B. Du Bois did not have a lot of at all. He did not have that solid foundation in labor. You got to understand how the world. I, Du Bois was brilliant. He's a brilliant intellectual, but his tools were moral pressure, political theory. Washington's tools were infrastructure, land, trades, institutions. W.B. Du Bois built arguments. Booker T. Washington built structures. That's a big difference. You have to prove yourself, tangibles, like the folks say nowadays. You got to bring receipts, real receipts. You can't just talk about it. You got to be about it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Give me your thoughts. I've got a lot more thoughts on this subject, but I thought I would just do a short live and talk about it for a while. Theory is not enough. You have to show people what you're capable of doing, not just talking about it. If you watch this live later, leave a comment, tell me what you think, hit the like button. Talk to you later.